What's going on, guys? It's Fight Season MMA, and today I want to make a video talking about the only reason and only stipulation that Jon Jones will fight Tom Aspinall. The reason I believe, that there's this massive debate going on between these two individuals. We all know that Tom Aspinall is saying that he's better than Jon Jones. He's minimizing his accomplishments, saying he's used PEDs and a bunch of different things. Jon Jones is coming back at him, saying that Tom Aspinall isn't a great fighter, that he has no accomplishments, of how he has to build his resume on his own. But I do believe that there is only one way that this will end up happening between Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall, and I'll get into that into this video. But before that, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. That is the best way to help support the channel. And before you do that, please go down there and turn on the post notifications button, just so you guys are always staying up to date with the latest UFC content and news, just so you guys are able to watch all of my MMA content that releases daily. But let's jump into the one reason that I believe Tom Aspinall versus Jon Jones actually has a chance of happening. Now, I want to highlight real quick, I don't think that this fight is going to happen, but if it does happen, this is going to be the reason that I believe it will. Okay, so I want to talk about the only reason that I believe Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall will occur, and I think that is if Jon Jones really feels disrespected and has to show that Tom Aspinall isn't giving him the legacy that a lot of people deserve. I think that Jon Jones needs to understand that in the organization, Tom Aspinall is a fighter who is upcoming. He feels like he's the greatest heavyweight to have an opportunity of all time. He is one of the best fighters of all time, truly, in that heavyweight division. He's beat the likes of Alexander Volkov. He just beat Curtis Blades. He just beat Sergey Pavlovich, Marcin Tybura. He's beat a bunch of different UFC heavyweights, and truly, he has some of the greatest fighting IQ in the UFC currently. He's super fast, super strong, and he's a really just world of a talent in the organization. But I think Jon Jones is going to really need to be impressed by him, and I think that isn't going to happen. And I think the only way that this is going to happen, if it's laid out, if Tom Aspinall hits a nerve in Jon Jones that really makes him believe that he is disrespecting him. I think Jon Jones is going to come out this fight at UFC 309 versus Stipe Miocic and absolutely bully Stipe around. I don't think it's going to be that close of a fight. I think Jon Jones has a right to want to fight Stipe. He's been in the UFC for so long that truly I think a fight with Stipe Miocic makes sense. Now, yes, I do think it's coming a couple years too late, but it is a fight which does prioritize itself in the UFC heavyweight division if you do like nostalgic fights in the UFC, and that's what Dana White I think is holding on to right now, having one of his best heavyweights of all time go up against his best light heavyweight of all time, two of his favorite fighters of all time, going to battle it down inside the UFC octagon one final time at UFC 309 at Madison Square Garden in New York City, New York. Now, truly, I do believe that if Tom Aspinall fought both of these individuals, and he said some very cold lines of how he would retire Jon Jones without even fighting him and a bunch of different other quotables like that, but I do think that Tom Aspinall would be the person to beat Jon Jones. Now, we all know that Jon Jones' only loss in the UFC was early on in his career from a 12-6 elbow by Matt Hamill, compared to a lot of other fighters who get a loss, getting knocked out, getting punched. His only loss was a disqualification, which really means that he should be an undefeated fighter in the organization. Dana White most certainly believes that he should be undefeated, and a lot of other fighters within the organization believe it. But Tom Aspinall feels like he could be the first person to take that 0 from his record, and I'm just going to say 0 because it's pretty much consensus that Jon Jones would be undefeated if it was other than that disqualification. So he would be the first person to actually beat Jon Jones via submission, decision, or KO in this fight. And Tom Aspinall's confidence is something that you could feel radiating off of him in all the interviews and all the different discussions and all the different videos that he's put out talking about this Jon Jones incident. But I think the one thing that he's going to have to start doing is really getting under Jon Jones' skin. And a lot of things that he could talk about would be the different incidents that he's had, the different PEDs, all that different stuff diminishing his legacy. And truly, if he could go there and get to that deep part of Jon Jones' career and his legacy to truly discount or discredit everything that Jon Jones has done, that would allow and give Jon Jones, I believe, motivation to go inside the UFC and to try to beat Tom Aspinall one final time. Now, I'm not saying that you should discredit this. I'm not saying it's not right, it's not wrong, but it is the fight game. And kind of trash talk, as Dana White has said a lot of different times, is part of the fight game. The most prominent time I remember Dana White saying this was after UFC 290, where Dricus du Plessis fought on that card against Robert Whittaker. He ended up beating Whittaker That led to an exchange between him and Israel Adesanya. They got very vulgar with some of the language it was in the standpoint inside the arena. Now, Dana White said he was perfectly fine with it because the fight game conduces to some of these different styles and techniques. And what Tom Aspinall's doing is completely inside the line. It's not personal. It's just Tom Aspinall wants this fight with Jon Jones to happen. So I ultimately believe that Tom Aspinall, if he goes in there and truly makes a scene and he truly understands and degrades Jon Jones's legacy in the UFC, he could possibly capture this fight with the UFC GOAT and ultimately make him want to fight him, one of the best upcoming prospects in the UFC we've ever seen in that heavyweight division, and finally unify the belt after almost a year of them being ununified. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fights at MMA, and please let me know what you think down below in the comments of my only reason that I believe Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall would happen if Tom Aspinall goes out there and completely discredits and completely just nullifies Jon Jones's career accomplishments inside the UFC due to the other different parts of his legacy tarnishing and diminishing them. I do believe that this would be a path for Tom Aspinall to go. Now, is it the right path or the wrong path? I'm not 100% sure, but in the UFC fight game, it is 100% a valid way to get fights to happen, considering that it is a kind of a nasty business, a nasty sport. It's not the, it's not the most kind sport out there, and I feel like that words definitely are something that could definitely start a fight, could definitely promote the fight, and definitely lead to Tom Aspinall getting his dream fight with Tom Aspinall. And nothing is personal from Tom. I already know Tom, but him going out on this limb, I think is possibly going to ultimately capture him this fight. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fights at MMA, and please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. That is the best way to help the channel grow. We are almost to 1,000 subscribers, so if you guys aren't already subscribed, please go down there and hit the subscribe button because it's free. And while you're down there too, turn on the post notifications if you haven't already also, because you guys can stay up to date with the latest UFC content and news that I release on a daily basis. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon with more UFC content and news.